Okay, so it's already 7, and I think we have enough people in this call. Cool. 9. Let's wait for others also. Meanwhile, I'll just give short introduction of this Tuesday after work. So we started this series to get some involvement with our alumni committee. And we have already hosted 2 Tuesday after work. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend those, but those were also very interesting as I got feedback from our board members. Last year also, this event was really successful, and so we still have this pandemic situation, and we wanted to do something for our community. So we started this Tuesday afterward, where one or some of our members can present their work, give some workshop, or just have some discussion in this series. So please reach out to our outreach and partnership officer Davor for if you want to present something. So in this Tuesday after work, so let me move my slide. It's 1st of June, so we already had 2 of the sessions, 18th and 15th. So in today's session, we are having Erik, and we were also having Sabine, which unfortunately is not able to join today. But Erik is having some things to say about DevOps. Actually, we talked about it when I got selected as technology officer, that he was very interested in DevOps, and I think that time he just started working in the new company. So, Erik, you want to introduce yourself and present what do you have in this exciting topic about DevOps, scaling the developer experience from seed to exit? Please go ahead.
The first thing I think I changed a bit the name from DevOps, culture and tech, or maybe it's going to be tech and culture. The thing is, everyone has heard about DevOps, and it has become a bit of buzzword. And what is that? Everyone says that it makes your lives easier and to deploy stuff, and well, a bit of black magic with all of these buzzwords. So they need to explain a bit what it is, because it's not just a set of tools, but it's also a culture. And I think it's much more important, this second part, than the first one. And the idea is to explain a bit what it is, how it works, what are the objectives, and maybe a bit of samples of tools or what you can do, because some people are not aware that that you can do some crazy stuff to make it much easier your life, and make easier the life of your friends that are developing. And of course, if you have questions, I will be willing to answer them. Yeah, so I guess I will start sharing the screen.
Yeah, sure. Let me stop sharing mine.
Oh, I'm stopping yours already.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Well, it will be good if I could see everyone, but I will just, I don't know, which screen are you seeing? The one with the presentation, or?
One with presentation and you.
Okay, because I had dual screen and I wasn't sure which one I was showing. So, well, this presentation, as I said, is going to be culture and tech. I'm going to try to put a bit my feedback in TravelPerk, but also in my previous company, Bitfy. But before that, this is going to be more tech and culture. I'm going to start first with the tools. What can we use in order to improve our life in deployment and in development? And then culture, and how it fits not only with engineering, but with the whole company. So for starters, a bit about me. My name is Erik. I'm senior DevOps engineer in TravelPerk. I feel starting a startup called Bitfy with 4 other friends. It was 4 years that, 3 years that I learned a lot with my friends. finally decided to move on. And now I'm working since 1 year ago. In fact, I think today it's my birthday anniversary of working in the company in another startup called Travel Perk with other 40 members. But in this case, this second company is much bigger. It has around 500 people in total. So before starting, what is DevOps? DevOps, it has become a buzzword. This means that everyone says he's doing DevOps, but I'm not really sure who does DevOps or who doesn't do it. So I hope no one gets offended, but DevOps is like teenage sex. Everyone talks about it. Nobody really knows how to do it. Everyone thinks everyone else is doing it, and everyone claims they are doing it. But in this case, I'm not really sure if I'm doing it well properly. I will try to explain my experience. So don't take the advice, you should do exactly this. Just take it as a way to okay, this is DevOps, this is what I can do, and I can get involved into it and keep on learning, okay? So the problems in a company differ depending if you're a 5 people company or a 500 people company, like in the both companies I've been working lately. In a 5 people company, you want to go fast, you have to make money fast, release something fast, everything is fast. It's easy to speak with other people because there are only 3 tables. So, hey, how are you? Okay, it's easy to get information. And this means that knowledge is easily shareable. And of course, architecture is simple. You just go with a Node.js app or a Django app, something small, it works, that's it. But then when you go to a 500 people company, you start getting problems. The priority, it's not getting fast. It's going fast, but stable. Then you have different teams, frameworks, and languages. You have vertical communication, and you have squads. There is people that you didn't even know that they work in the company. You have a complex architecture, and also you might have issues such as you have CI/CD deployments, so automatic deployments to production, and those deployments take 1 hour. You don't want that. So these are the 2 different problems that you have at any moment, and there is one that is always constant, that is the test, linting, and observability is something that you should be always doing, and we are going to go through them now soon. So what is DevOps? DevOps, they usually say it's a culture and a team, but I also call it as a set of tools. DevOps is a culture that helps to deliver better deployment cycles, make them faster, make them smarter, and of course that they work properly. And it's also a team that makes sure that this happens, that provides support to the developers so they can provide this culture. And also so developers can focus in coding and not in deploying. And together, we have a set of tools that this team uses that makes the developers' life easier with less stress and friction. Usually what we know is that we plan using tools like Jira, we code, use your preferred IDE, Beam, PyCharm, whatever. Then you go to, you build it, you just usually push it to GitHub, and then you pack it into a container whatsoever, you test to make sure that it works, and then what happens afterwards? So then it comes the operations part of DevOps, that's usually the dark side of DevOps, and then it comes the release, the deployment, the operation, and the monitor. And those are usually important ones that developers are not so focused on that, because when you develop, you focus only in the development side. So what is this release, deploy, operate, and monitor? When you release, well, are you going to put it directly in production? Maybe you are going to put it in staging, then in pre-testing, and then in production. Also, there are different ways of deploying. It's not the same putting it in a container, like, no, I have to put it in a virtual machine, or I have to push code. Then you also have to operate it, like, I have to do a migration. How do we handle this? And finally, the one that everyone forgets, it's monitoring. Is the service working well or not? So this second part, it's usually lost between the developers, because developers should only focus in this side. And this is where the DevOps teams come in and try to focus in this second side together with the site reliability team, okay? By the way, these of culture team and set of tools, this is just my humble opinion. As I said before, don't take it as this is like this. Then when should I start implementing DevOps? As early as possible, but always remember, it's not the same a 5 people team than a 500 people team. the business requirements are different, and of course prioritize what the business decides, because money rules, and if you are out of business, you are not going to get any work. So try to do what business people suggest. Okay. Then what's the aim with the tools of DevOps? The idea is to create a set of tools that are shared to all the company squads or the company members if it's a tiny company, instead of each of them creating their own way of deploying stuff, monitoring stuff, or focus on streamlining it, maintaining it, and sharing it through all the squads. Why I'm saying that? Because usually what happens, or at least what has happened in Travelperk lately, is that I think it's in 2 years, they have nearly duplicated the amount of engineers in the company. This means that 2 years ago, they only had 3 teams, which everyone knew each other, since always. They started, okay, I have to deploy this. Okay, I'm going to create a toolset to deploy. Oh, I have to test this. I'm going to create a toolset to test. Good, everyone knew about all the tools. These 3 teams became now 15 teams, which, well, you can already see that maybe 2 people already thought the same thing, like, I'm going to automatize this. Result, we have 2 standards. We have duplicated stuff and invested time that is useless. And sometimes what happens is that you focus on the problems on your team, but you don't focus on the problems on all the engineering team. So the idea is like, it's really important to have communication between the different teams and create a tool set that helps everyone to, as we said before, focus on development. And this will reduce code duplication, maintenance, and of course, invested time. We are lazy in engineering, so let's just do it once and right, if possible. And of course, we want to make developers happier and just enjoy coffee. So here, the important thing is, this is something I thought, but I hope that no one from frontend gets offended. Developer experience, the DX. Developers should focus on developing, not in debugging. And not in debugging deployments, the network, or CI/CD pipelines. It should be easy as git push, and then magic happens, okay? But someone has to have this knowledge, okay? So the task of the developer should be, I do a Jira task, I develop the product, and I make sure that the tests pass or I implement the test. That's it. And it works in my computer. The task of DevOps go a bit, they are a mirror to this, because it's mostly the operation part. Configure the deployment, provide tools to monitor, assist debugging network issues, be a consultant for the developer team, and create tools to make a developer's life easier, and of course, automatize. And as you see, you could do both things at the same time. You can be a developer and do DevOps at the same time, or do some of the steps of DevOps. But having both at the same time sometimes is so much knowledge that the only thing it makes is to make your development slower, because you are trying to learn stuff that you are going to be using maybe once or twice a month, a year. That is maybe when you create a new service. And you will have to learn it. And of course, learning is good, but it's better if someone has this this knowledge centralized, shareable, and can come to you and do a bit of consultancy, because it's good to learn, but not so much to having to relearn something when someone can teach it to you faster. And automatizing, it's important, but always remember that you have to spend some time in order to implement it. So in order to fix one thing that you are going to do only once a year and it's going to take you 1 second, don't automatize it. But if it's something that is going to take 50 different people every month, sometime like 1 hour or 2 hours, maybe it's better for DevOps to implement that and make someone else's life easier. So the basics, if developers provide user experience to the users, DevOps should provide developer experience to the developers. Then let's go a bit techy. Tools that we can use in order to implement these DevOps to make our lives easier. The one that you must know, and I'm sure that you must know it, otherwise please go to check it online, is Git, because it's where we store the code, and it's something easy as a collaborative place where we can do pull requests and everything. And we don't realize, but that makes the friction much easier. Years ago, you had to send an email with the zip of the code that you wanted to patch. We don't have to do this anymore. This is done via Git automatically. So that is, we have been doing DevOps already without being aware, but Yeah, we're doing it already. Things related to Git, there is pre-commit or husky, where you can do Git hooks in order to do to run some tools before you push them to the repository. I'm going to show them now in the next slide. GitHub, it's also a tool that has been reducing a lot the friction or all the similar tools. Then we have CI/CD tools, continuous integration and continuous delivery tools. Mostly they are tools that provide pipelines where you can do different steps, such as the most known one is Jenkins, but GitHub Actions has been rising a lot lately. Why? Because the idea is that you push the code and that automatically is going to do the tests, checking your code, building it, deploying it, reverting it if it fails. The idea is that automatize this part that it's harder and cumbersome, so the deployment time can be reduced from maybe 1 hour, because before it had to be one person connected to one place to push a file via SFTP and then updating the server. And this is usually done in lots of big companies or consultants, even if we don't know it. But now you can do it automatically. Linters and enforcers, going to explain about this soon. If you work with Python, Black and Flake 8, it's a must. Prettier if it's JavaScript, and there are other ones for other languages. If there are multiple people cooperating, you will have different styles of coding, but you don't want a Frankenstein code. Otherwise, do you remember at school when you had to write a different paragraph of a story? It really feels that it's written by different persons, different people. Linters and enforcers make sure that the style of code is consistent between all the code in the company and makes it really, really easy to read the code afterwards. Package managers, that also saves lives and dependencies. Bash and scripting languages, because you have to glue up everything. Terraform, Pulumi, or other architecture management tools. We're gonna see them soon, and I'm gonna blow your mind, I guess. Container and virtual machines. These were the buzzwords a couple of years ago. Yeah, this is what it makes more portable a service and makes it easy to scale up and down, even if we don't realize. Clouds, we don't have to wait 2 hours to get a new machine running. Now it's automatic. Then another important topic, observability. Observability, it's mostly what it tells us what the service, if the service is working well or not. In this case, there is APM, application performance monitoring with traces spans that I'm going to show soon. And this includes logs, metrics, and SLOs. This is what tells you how healthy is your service. And finally, ways of deploying stuff like canary, blue-green, and mirroring deployments. I just said a lot of words. You don't have to remember all of them, but if there is something from here that you don't know, just invest 2 minutes to maybe learn what is that. But I'm going to show you a couple of them. For example, pre-commit plus back plus flake 8. What does it do? You do a git add, and then afterwards you do the commit, and that automatically is going to run Black and flake 8 in your computer. Black, what it does, it's clean up the code, so everything is a standard. In case of Python, it's with PEP 8 standard. And Flake 8 makes sure that you are not doing any weird stuff or some bad practices. You can even configure them to your bad practices. For example, in this case, there is an equal spacing over here. You see that there are extra spaces here. And over here, this should be organized as well. So whenever you do the git commit, automatically, this is gonna clean up the whole code and make it standard for you. So you are not reading a line of 3,000 characters. So now if you check in the GIF, this is gonna load again the file. You will see that here, the spacing, it's, well, this was before running Black. This was before, so the spacing was unequal. And over here, this line was super long. So after applying Black, this looks a bit better. Sorry, this is not a video. I cannot pass it fast now, but maybe I can show it now. You see now spaces are equal. And also over here, this will be format as well. And the single quotes to double quotes. So it's just standardizing a bit the code. It's really simple, couple of lines, and you can use it with a GitHub action. Going to observability, what are traces and spans? Whenever a request hits the server, that creates a trace, and each of the operations is a span. So it's a way that now companies use in order to see how long it takes each operation inside of the different services or different sub-services, microservices you have inside of your cloud. It's really useful because here you see that here, this Laravel request is the slowest one. So you can debug it that this is where you will start fixing, and this goes tied with the logs. Then we also have Terraform. Terraform is a way, if any of you has ever played with Amazon Web Services, they have a lot of configuration options and a lot of checkboxes and input boxes and everything. What if you want to duplicate all the configuration you have in production and they tell you, hey, please, can you do this, duplicate it and do the same for staging? You will have to remember all the clicks that you did. That's a mess. Terraform, what tells you, it's that you can create a file, a TF file, where you can declare resources, such as, for example, IAM groups, or variables, or S3 buckets, or anything, or policies. Then you do a Terraform apply, and Terraform is going to tell you, okay, give me a second. It's going to go to Amazon. It's going to check those resources from Amazon, the status that they have right now. And it's going to tell you, look, if you want this desired state, I have to do these changes. And it's going to do all these changes for you. This means that you can create reusable modules, such as Service A, and deploy it in staging and in production with a bit of different configurations, rather than having to duplicate everything. It allows you to reuse part of the code between different services. An example, it's in TravelPrep, we just created a module that it's called TK service, and it's just a form that you fill, and automatically you get it running in ECS, in Amazon, with the permissions, with a load balancer, everything. It's automatic. So the idea is to make someone's life easier. You don't have to understand how everything works, but if someone has the need to deploy something, they can do it just filling a form. That's it. What else? Deployments. We can do either rolling deployments, where we replace each of the container or virtual machines. This means that maybe a person will hit a new service or an old service at any time. We can have canary deployments that are usually done by users. So if you are in this, if you are this user, you will get in version 1.2, otherwise 1.1. So you do a release per users and you validate that nothing gets broken. And blue-green deployment, where you just deploy, you have the previous and the new version running in parallel, and then the only thing you do is you start the load balancer. It's the most dangerous one, but it's the fastest one. This sometimes like, yeah, can we roll in different ways? Yeah, but coding this logic, it's something that it makes it more hard. It makes it harder. It's not so difficult to know how to do it, but it's harder to implement it in your infrastructure or code. And then these are a bit the tools, but what about the culture? The idea is that DevOps is not just the DevOps team. DevOps team is the one that coordinates these tools and these ideas and this knowledge. And also try to do a bit of consultancy for the rest of the teams. But everyone cooperates in DevOps. The first one is share tools, create things not for your team, but for your company. So you can create your own tools, but if something gets cool, share it with the community. Or not only with the company, make it open source with everyone. That's the cool thing. Do not reinvent the wheel. We are lazy. Why do I have to do everything from scratch? Well, let's reuse what someone else created. Unless that thing is so bad, then you can create a new one, as we always do. But it's 99% sure that someone else has had the same problem as you before. So just Google it, Stack Overflow it, whatever, and you will find that there are projects doing that for you. Postmortems, share mistakes and allow mistakes. That is really, really important. I'm going to tackle it soon. Also, you build it, you own it. So don't build your own code and then give it to someone else. If you create a new tool, you have the rights to decide on it, and also you should take care of it and maintain it. And of course, of it, collaboration. Because I know that we all engineers, we have this collaboration inside of us, but this is what really helps software and teamwork to evolve. And this is what I was saying about breaking stuff. It's difficult to learn things if you don't break things. Even if you just finished your EIT Digital Master or you are working in a company, we have to keep on learning. And for that, we have to break stuff. If we don't get an error, we did something wrong. That's usually what you think. So part of the aim is not only how to break stuff, but also how to fix the broken things. and try to break things in staging or in local, not in production. But if it happens in production, it happens. This is why there are also postmortems, where there are meetings that usually happen weekly. And hey, this person broke this stuff, and he's gonna explain us how he broke it, what happened, and how we have taken steps in order to avoid this problem again. So the idea is to learn from the problems, not to laugh from them. Sometimes you laugh from them because sometimes they are so silly that it's crazy. But this is exactly what they told me when I joined Travelperk 1 year ago. My boss told me, you have 2 weeks to break something, otherwise you're not learning anything. So in 2 weeks, I broke something so big that I froze the whole cluster, well, the whole cloud during 2 minutes. I can explain you later, but well, I really fucked it up. Well, sorry for the wording. And an example of this, it's Chaos Monkey. I don't know if you have heard about it, but it's a tool from Netflix that they use in production. And that thing, what it does, it kills randomly virtual machines and containers. Because if we do the things well and we learn from the errors, we can do things that are auto-healing and help themselves automatically. And that's the aim of a bit of DevOps. So you focus on development, not on fixing stuff afterwards. And you can be proactive. So we have seen now a bit the culture on what will be in engineering. Like we have to cooperate, we have to learn from the mistakes. But thinking about this, it's not only that you can apply in engineering team, you could apply all these ideas as well in the whole company, in HR, in product, in sales, in everything. Because culture is not just a problem in engineering, it's a matter of state in the company. And to put an example of why culture works, on why people that you work with, it matters how they behave, I'm gonna make you a small question. With who would you rather work? You have 2 options. You can work with Sheldon Cooper, or you can work with Leonard Hofstadter, if you have watched The Big Bang Theory. So yeah, Sheldon Cooper might be one of the most intelligent person on earth, but I dare you to stay with him more than a month. I'm sure that you wouldn't be in the same thing with him, working with him during a month. Because sometimes it matters more how well you can fit in the team and how well you can work as a teamwork, rather than your knowledge. Because if you can help motivate the people, not only just provide the knowledge, that's the thing. The idea of working as a team is that, okay, I have my failings, I'm not the best ones in those topics, but I'm good at these other ones. And where I have a leak, so other people could help me, there is other people in my team to help me on that. And this is why we should focus a bit in the cultural part of not only, hey, I'm joining that company because I have this knowledge, but hey, are you a right person that you are collaborative and work with other people in the team? And also there are different kinds of companies. There are companies that, hey, you have to work from 9 to 5. And if you don't work those hours, you are working bad. There are other companies like, hey, you did only 3 hours today, but you just delivered all these results, which it will fit different kind of people. You don't have to fit in all the teams or in all the companies. You have to not only find a place where you fit with your knowledge, but a place that you can fit with your way of behaving and meeting people and working. And for example, someone is not gonna be maybe feeling good with these statements in the screen right now: impact over effort, 7-star experience, we're a team, or be a good person. Other people will have priorities in other values in a company. So just find a value, a company that not only you fit in the position that they are giving you, but you also fit in the values of the company or in the culture of the company, as a suggestion. And the other thing is that it's not easy to keep an amazing culture in a startup while we have the pandemic going on. Because of the pandemic, revenue disappears. Or, for example, also when you double the growth of the company in a couple of years, it's not the same working 15 people than 200, 300 people. And this is the same that I guess that we can feel here in the EIT digital community. It's not the same as the start when we were a couple of people that, hey, I just finished my master, than right now that we have a fully grown community that's keep on growing. So this is not a problem just for our company, but for any kind of group of people. So when you have these problems like the pandemic and life gives you lemons, it's not impossible to get to get a good culture, amazing culture. You need leadership, teamwork, remote events, transparency, flexibility, great communication, and that if you get lemons and you have problems, well, let's make lemonade out of it and let's keep on working. And as you can see, I just wrote it for maybe Travel Perk, but this could be applied to any other of your companies or EIT Digital, because the culture is not a problem just for engineering or how we can cooperate together, but we can always extrapolate it to everywhere else. So for that, we always need a great team. And recapping a bit on this, DevOps, it's collaboration, working together, providing tools so people don't have so many problems, automatizing the things that take time, make people's life easier, and having a great team and culture, okay? And I hope that with this, I kind of a bit answered what is DevOps. I know that it went a bit to culture at the end. If you want to go more technical, we can discuss it later with the beer, but wanted to make it more accessible for front-end people or not so techie people. And if anything, you can ask me anything. So thank you.
Thanks. Hello, Erik.
Yes.
I can go first, maybe. Or
okay. Yeah. Sure.
Hey, Erik, is Shashi here. Nice to see you again. I didn't turn on my video. Maybe I can just do it for you. So yeah. So I have not questions, but it's just a different of opinions, maybe. Just because I also had some experience with DevOps for quite a bit of time, and it's interesting. Maybe it's also very subjective depending on which companies you work in and everything, and developer experience, DevOps as a whole, the term itself, the meaning changes in every company, and there is no like a standard meaning anyway for DevOps in all of the industry. But my opinions were kind of maybe biased, but I do feel when you said like in the first few slides about developers should just focus on developing code and not worrying about the CI/CD pipelines or the troubleshooting or the other kind of stuff. I don't know, maybe you put it in somewhere about what developers should do and what a DevOps engineer should do. You had a comparison between DevOps and developers, right? So according to me, because I did have this kind of experience where DevOps engineers were responsible for CI/CD pipelines and also, maintaining the infrastructure and also kind of maintaining the automation, providing framework, providing some tools for the developers to work on, etc. And also I've been in company where we kind of offloaded most of these tasks to developers themselves so that they can own more and more of the services they build. If you consider a repository, a GitHub repository, every file in there is something which should be owned by a developer if it's a service. Say if you kind of put one GitHub repository for one microservice, then all of these files inside this repository should be owned by developer, including the pipelines, so that they don't need to come to us for or wait for us to unblock them from any kind of things, because this in turn, again, if there are few developers, how many developers to develop?
That's exactly the aim, to provide a set of tools that they can work with. But the idea is that not every team just develops things by themselves, because, well, they could do that, but the problem is that then you have a mess. And you want to avoid that as a fellow DevOps engineer, as we know. And of course, the idea is that developers own their own projects. They have to focus in coding and not in deploying. So they should focus in their own service. Of course, they will have to know a bit how the service behaves. Like this service is going to stand 1,000 requests per second. I'm just going to say a number. We're not going to go from DevOps like, hey, you have to measure this. This should come from the team, and they should know how the service works, and they should be able to, well, you build it, you own it. So they build it, they should own it, and they should take decisions on that.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing on that, but I'm just kind of a bit trying to understand, okay, what would be the nice balance between what a developer should own and what a DevOps engineer should actually do in the company. For me, it's more about, supporting developers in terms of so that they can be more self-serviceable in terms of doing whatever they have to do for the application. Could be monitoring, setting up alerts for the application they own, setting up pipelines for the application they own. When I say setting up, that means they're not doing for the first time. I mean, DevOps engineers obviously have a template of pipelines which have been done in the past. They could just copy it over and kind of play around with it, because every time you want to do a change to this pipeline they own, you want a DevOps engineer to come and fix it, and you have to wait for the DevOps engineer to come and fix it, and it may take over a day, which means you have less time for your feature to go to production, because it takes more time for the feature to go to the production because they're waiting on you for certain things, and you don't know how fast you can do.
No, of course, the aim here is that developers shouldn't depend on DevOps. Well, DevOps should provide the tools and should only depend on really difficult things that you should maybe spend a couple of days searching on what is happening there.
Yeah.
If it's just changing hey, I have to add an M variable, that's up to the team or developer. And otherwise, also, what we're maybe talking from our company is we're having a weekly meetup with the squads, kind of, hey, what's the problems last week? What are the things that you're requesting? Kind of trying to do a cycle of, hey, how can we make your lives easier as a developer? Yeah, I have this problem. I get too many noise in this alert over here. We have that. Okay, we're gonna fix this, and I take it in my notes. Otherwise, hey, we can do it now in 5 minutes, and I show you how I do it. So this way, next time you can do it yourself. It's not only just giving the tools, but also sharing the knowledge.
And do you have any kind of metrics which you measure for developer experience?
Yeah, this is right now not exactly being done by us DevOps, but this is being done by the leadership team in engineering. They are taking now numbers, for example, the number of PRs that the user does, but developer does, the time it takes for the PR to get approved, how many PRs does that person approve. This, for example, in Git numbers, or for example, as well, how long does it take the pipeline to deploy to production, or even SLOs, like how many errors per second standardized in all the services, because otherwise people are going to measure the errors in different ways. And we're using that in order to, the idea is that in the following months, we will be able to kind of have a dashboard like how healthy is each squad. So this way, if anything could happen, as a DevOps or architecture team could go there like, hey guys, you're having issues. Stop 1 second with the feature development. Let's go in and let's help you to fix this, because it's critical, and also find out if it's critical or not. Because one of the problems that we found lately is that there were 4 teams: flights, accommodations, trains, and cars, and they do nearly the same, but they were measuring the errors in a different way. One was 10 minutes period, maximum of 200 errors. The other one was 5-minute period. Another thing, how you can compare apples with pears. Yeah, there are fruits, but you have to do something similar. And that is, I guess, where DevOps can come in as a consultancy and as a way to sharing knowledge. But the idea is not like developers should be idiots. They should keep on learning. That's it.
Yeah, just trying to point that up. All right.
But I totally agree with what you say.
Thank you very much, Erik, for your nice presentation, and thanks, Shashi, for nice conversation. So we have some question in the chat. So first, I think Paul asked, did you ever develop your own Git push CI/CD pipeline to automatically push code to Git?
Wait, how to automatically push code to Git? I mean, you do it automatically with a Git push. I think I'm sorry, but I cannot really see the chat here. I don't know where it went. Here it is. Give me a second. Did you ever your Git push push code to Git? This doesn't really make a lot of sense. CI/CD pipelines usually trigger when you push stuff to Git. Automatically, that is going to trigger some actions like such as testing or linting or whatsoever. I'm not going to automatize pushing code from my computer to CI/CD, because that is dangerous. Otherwise, this means that automatically it could push code and break stuff online. But what you can do, and this is some crazy stuff that you can do, it's you can make CI/CD code to automatically detect issues in the GitHub repo that opens a PR that gets tested automatically, that gets approved automatically and merged automatically. This has happened. So this means that you don't have to take care anymore about security updates. They get automatically applied for you and in a safe way. Not sure if with this I answered something.
Maybe I'll ask a question which is related to this. How do you see GitHub Action? What is their future, and how do you see them right now?
For me, I see it as the same as it was Jenkins, or the same it was, there is Circle CI, Drone CI, there are many of them. They really do all of them the same. It's just different reinventions of the same, where you declare you have these steps and you can do these other things. The only new thing that GitHub Actions did, that in fact is a copy from Circle CI, if I'm not wrong, it's the GitHub Actions. In other places, like in Circle CI, they created the orbs, and at the same time, they released the GitHub Actions. So I think people were working in parallel on this, where mostly the idea is that you can share already packaged steps, such as deploy to server. You just pass 2 parameters and it works. So you are sharing already ready packages to do actions. For me, the future, what I see is that GitHub Actions is going to evolve in a way like I just take like building steps, I connect them in a way like this calls these other places or whatsoever, and it works. It should be a plug and play. Of course, it's going to get a bit harder. I feel it's all the deployment and rolling releases, or how to do a canary release, or how to handle these kind of edge cases that are more advanced. I think that GitHub Actions and all these similar tools are going to evolve into this to automatize these kind of things.
Okay, cool.
Could I ask a really fast question maybe before I go, because I need to go?
Yeah.
Are you, Erik, in TravelBird measuring these 4 key performance metrics, I think it's called? So delivery lead time, deployment frequency, mean time to restore service, and change fail rate? Because in my company, at least, we're trying to measure this, so you can score every team if we are like good performers or bad performers or elite performers, you know.
Yeah, this is mostly what I was saying to Shashi, that we are trying to gather a bit to get metrics from the squads to tell how good how well are they going, not only they but also the services, because these are mostly the 4 key metrics, but you can go deep down, like number of PRs, number of approvals, number of comments, number of time spent in a PR. Of course, some of them are binding, like, okay, this tells that person is doing well or wrong, because you can do it at squad level or a service level or even per personal level. But you have to be careful, because some numbers, for example, the number of PRs, is not something that is going to tell you that that person is good or not. Maybe too many PRs is something wrong, but if you check the context that person was updating like all the repos because doing changes everywhere, or was doing a lot of tiny PRs in order to avoid breaking stuff, then maybe it makes sense. So usually you need the context in those numbers. It's an idea to get like a general idea of how well is it going, but you have to be careful, because the context can tell you that, hey, we're just deploying stuff here, and yeah, we're getting a lot of errors because the problem is not us, it's the provider that's getting errors. But then you have the issue like, how well are we measuring this? So in order to get these numbers, I guess it comes as well the same problems you have in data science, like, are we measuring this well? Do we have clean up data, proper clean data? Otherwise, maybe we're measuring something that it's not the right thing, and you can keep on iterating on that to improve it. And also you have to find numbers, I guess, that fit on how you organize the company. It's not the same having teams of 15 people than teams of five people, or different ways. I guess that you have to find it and fit in your company. It's the same as DevOps, as I was saying. This is my point of view, but you have to find it in a way that to fit in your company. There are guidelines, and then just find those numbers. But I agree that those 4 key numbers, I have read about them, and seem to be a good way to see, well, for starters, if a squad or a team is doing well or not.
Thank you. I need to go. See you.
Okay.
Thanks, Carlos. And there is another question from Jose Carlos. Until what point is DevOps a need, and when does it start to be an overkill?
I would like to ask, what do you call overkill? I think a need, it's when, or maybe Jose can explain it, or.
Yeah, so it is about more like the needs of the organizations, and especially those that hire DevOps consultants. So when do you know that an organization has already, for example, a good CI/CD pipeline and there is sufficient automation in there? Or how do you know when you need to continue automating things and putting more effort into DevOps? Is there a point when you say like, okay, this is sufficient for my team, this is enough, or this is a continuous process that just keeps going on?
I think this should be an iterative process that keeps on working. I think that maybe the slide that is going to explain most of it, it's this. You shouldn't automatize everything from scratch because automatizing takes time. And usually you think, yeah, I'm going to start automatizing it. It takes 5 minutes I'm gonna, to run this, but I'm going to automatize it. Then you spend 4 hours to automatize a 5-minute thing because, of course, you have to do it. I think that DevOps is a need when you start seeing that people are starting to doing the same things in different places in their own way, and mostly they're doing the same. So it's okay, let's try to share this knowledge and put it in one single tool that works all together. Also, you will see that this problem starts coming up a bit when you want reliability in the team and people measure the things in different way. The idea is that you have to keep on doing that, but of course you cannot impose it to everyone because everyone has its own way of, hey, I have this need or I have this other need. And also you cannot automatize or standardize everything. I think that DevOps is needed when you see that there is friction with the teams, that they are spending much more time debugging than development. When the balance between development and deployment and debugging and everything changes, you see that that should tell you if you have enough DevOps or you shouldn't have it, or you need more DevOps, I guess. And also too much DevOps, too much automatizing, maybe the danger it's something that maybe I forgot to comment, that it's documentation. Things have to be documented, and it's not only like, hey, automatize stuff, you press a button and it works. You should be also knowing what happens underneath, so you know what is happening underneath. It's the same for us. I think it's the base as any engineer. You know, you should start with the base. You know how it works in the base, and then you can do like more generic big stuff with a couple of commands that do magic stuff. But of course, for someone, you shouldn't start doing something maybe super basic if you want to speed up and you are just learning. And also choose the tools that you need. Maybe I think the clearest example is how to kill a fly. Which is the easiest way? You take the hand, you hit it, you kill it. Option number 2, a bit more fancy. You take a newspaper, you hit it, you kill it. Option number 3, you get a hammer and you hit and you kill it. Maybe it's not the best way, but you can kill it as well. Or you can use a bazooka. Depending on the kind of fly, if it's a mutant fly, you will use a bazooka. But you should use the tools that require that you have the knowledge to use them, and also thinking that you have to hire people to use those tools, because there's a learning part on that, and that is what people usually miss. Okay, let's use new tools. Okay, what about the learning path? What about the people that will have to use it? Is it expensive or not to pay the people to hire them? So it's not anymore a problem of DevOps, it's a problem of hiring and engineering and all the company, I guess this.
So maybe as a follow-up question, would you then say also, considering what you have presented and how these DevOps, it's embedded in the culture of TravelPerk, would you consider this is a know-how that must be inside the organization rather than, coming from external consultants who come to the company, do their automation job, and then they leave? And so would you say that this is something that the company needs to take over, or the development team needs to take over?
I think it's a must this to be inside of the company, because if you want to create tools that tailor fit to the developers, you have to know the developers. It's not someone that you speak via email. It has to be someone where you have a beer with, and then they come to you, it's like, wow, today I had this problem today and I don't know why, and it's like, oh, we can fix this, we can automatize it. So the idea is to get rid of those bad feelings, and for that you have to be inside of the company. Of course, you're not going to apply DevOps to a website for a small shop that wants to use an e-commerce. Maybe that is an overkill. But what you can do, if you are a company that you are providing this tool to multiple people, you can create the pipelines and then automatize it for all of them. So you can provide fast deployments for everyone, or automatic security fixes for everyone. So the idea is then you are providing, you are dogfooding yourself, you are helping yourself, because DevOps is not a way to provide value to the user. It's a way to provide value to developers, as per my point of view. And if you provide value to developers, then you're helping the users because you're getting features faster. So it's an indirect way of helping the company, I will say.
Great, thanks. Thanks for the presentation and the answers.
Okay.
And we have, I think, the last question from Alex.
Yeah.
He says, if DevOps engineers are not doing any development, they are not DevOps. They are SRE or operational people, which is the same as the old model before the whole DevOps things was created, isn't it? What do you have?
Yes, I think that I agree with this because it's what I said before at the start. DevOps has become a buzzword, but yeah, originally it's what they call SRE, Site Reliability Engineer, or operational people, or sysadmin. Now this has become DevOps, and they have added it all together in not just moving into one specific person or team, but moving into a culture. Why? Because the reliability, it's not something that happens in the whole company, but it happens in each of the services that provide into a company. If your company has only one service, then yeah, you can just call it SRE, I guess. But if your company has multiple squads that all together aggregated, they provide the uptime and the health of the service, I guess that then you have to distribute this SRE, and this distributing the SRE is where this DevOps culture comes in. From my point of view, DevOps is just a way to distribute SREs and distribute the metrics and distribute knowledge in the company. Plus, centralizing a bit these crazy problems like, hey, there is this thing, I don't know how to do it. It's a network issue. When there are network issues, it's always a problem. And then you can maybe put it and move it up to the DevOps team, because maybe they will have the knowledge about it. They know how the subnets work underneath and everything. So I will say that DevOps is just a team of SREs or whatsoever. Right now, on my current job in TravelPerk, I feel that it's a lot of SRE because I'm just doing monitoring, logging, and everything everywhere. But of course, I'm just documenting everything like, hey, this should be implemented in this way. So this way it fits with what we're doing in all the companies. And this way you just copy paste this thing and it's going to work. If you want to learn how it works, you can just go deep. So as I said, it's not just the tools or this position. It's, I guess, for me, DevOps, I think it's more the culture.
Thank you. So we don't have any other questions. So is anyone want to ask any question from Erik?
I had a question, but I'm not sure if it was answered because my connection was down short regarding Git pipelines.
I tried to answer it, but as I said before, how to your Git pass CI/CD pipeline? Well, I have created pipelines by myself. In fact, I created a side project that when you just push the code into the GitHub repo, it automatically links it, tests it, then automatically packages into a container. It runs end-to-end tests, and then it deploys it in ECS in Amazon Web Services. That's one of the pipelines.
But do you push it automatically in Git, or you manually push and then the magic happens?
Yeah, you have to push it. You always need a manual trigger usually, and this is what I was answering before. Okay. If my code gets pushed automatically up, you don't know if the code is well or not, then maybe that is going to start testing and doing stuff for you, but usually the code is going to get broken. The one who knows that the code works or not, it's you as a person, as the human behind of it coding. Okay, the only thing that I have seen automatic, but it's not pushing it from my computer, and it's what I said before. It's, for example, the depend.bot from GitHub that detects security issues. That opens up, detects the issue, detects a security hole. That opens a PR in the repo. The PR in the repo gets tested automatically. That gets approved automatically because it passes the test, and that gets deployed automatically. So yeah, you can now get automatic stuff, and if you do things right, you could get infinite maintenance in this. There is an example of an experiment someone created like a year ago, I guess. They created a Kubernetes cluster, and they configured it with a service to answer a website. And that website gets automatically patched and everything, and also the Kubernetes cluster. And he just left it there. and he did nothing, and that thing keeps on running with the latest patches and everything, and he hasn't done anything. It falls back if it fails the patching. It's automatic. So all this part of security is hard because you have to be sure about the security patches and everything. It kind of has disappeared with all this.
I see. Because I personally, I'm now building actually an automated Git pipeline. So I am trying to see how to do this actually.
Yeah. Also, I guess you could have a local Jenkins and Git server running in your computer. Yeah, but why do I have to run it in my computer when you can just run it online? The idea is that you push the code and it tests up online. This way, if someone does a comment on top of that, that pipeline gets stopped and they just do it with the next comment, because otherwise you're using time when you know that that is not going to be released. The idea is that you push it up. And yeah, if you want to run it locally because you have no internet, of course it's feasible. So that depends on the requirements. If you are in an internet constructing environment that you need to cut up all the outside connections, you could do something like this. But yeah. Any other questions, or?
Maybe I have one question. So I was using Elastic Beanstalk with like using GitHub pipeline also. So how do you see that Beanstalk solve the DevOps engineer work for like if someone doesn't need much requirement of DevOps? So does it work as DevOps engineers work, like combination of GitHub pipeline and Elastic Beanstalk from Amazon?
Well, it's just the same as using GitHub and EKS or Kubernetes, or GitHub and ECS. Elastic Beanstalk, I really haven't touched it, but I'm just sure that it's just with containers that they just scale up and down. I think it just goes a bit that way.
I think it provides container as well as like other services. It chose by itself.
Well, the idea always that cloud providers do, it's like, okay, you don't have to rely on someone expert and doing crazy stuff to deploy it. So in this case, is what I said before, you just use the tool that you need for your requirements. So if you are bootstrapping something, you don't have much knowledge in ECS, Kubernetes, or crazy stuff. And hey, I find it easy to follow the instructions here to deploy it and make in a scalable way, then use that tool. Then in the future, when instead of 1 people team, you have a 5 people team, then someone is going to be maybe, hey, I know how to use this other tool and I can explain to you guys how to use it. And then we can do this other advanced stuff that we couldn't do with the previous tool. But as always, remember that there is a learning, an investment on time on learning the new tool. So there is no perfect tool for any kind of case. You have to choose the tool depending of the context, your knowledge, and what you know. And assuming that if things go well, there is going to be people helping you as well on improving that, because you have to work as a team. If you are working alone, well, you can, if you know how to work all these things, yeah, you can make crazy stuff, but you're going to get burnt. And that is another topic that I haven't touched today, but getting burnt, it's something that you don't want to. It's depressing. It's sunny outside and you don't want to go out. So just focus on what you know, and that's it. And if you want to learn more, then you can keep on learning and trying new stuff. But if you have enough time for investing on that, or you have time for features.
If I may add a bit more from what Erik said, I think you cannot replace a DevOps engineer with Elastic Beanstalk or Kubernetes or whatever. But at the same time, the word DevOps engineer itself is quite confusing for many people. And we have been in this same field for a long time, and it was even confusing for us. So I just wanted to clarify a few things. Maybe it will help most people who ask a few questions also, just so that if Erik has missed out some points. So DevOps was never a job role. It was never meant to be an engineer. It is just a methodology, just like how Agile is for product managers, for example. So there are a set of other people who also do DevOps instead of Agile. So as an engineer, you're also very agile. You make Jira tasks, you follow sprint cycles. And in the same way as an engineer, you also should be DevOps, in the sense like you follow the methodology, you follow the principles. And basically what most of the people are trying to do is to build some metrics around DevOps, to kind of measure these metrics. So this will fall under DevOps instead of Agile, for example. So these things, but there was nobody who can build these things in the company or the processes for these things. So they kind of made this DevOps consultants or DevOps engineers, which became more like a big thing because developers did not have time to kind of do it themselves. So they took required help for people who can do specialized stuff so that they can actually help them with making the company more DevOps. So I would keep DevOps more for organizational aspect, like it is a more organizational thing. So the organizational values should drive DevOps through and through the whole company. It's not just one person. If you hire a DevOps engineer, your company will become a DevOps company. No, it's just like Agile. So if you hire many product managers, they make you a company Agile. So in the same way, DevOps engineers could help you in terms of making your company DevOpsy by providing you processes, frameworks, and tools, but not making you DevOps. They'll just give you tools and processes and automation so that the developers or anybody who wants to do DevOps can do DevOps easily and faster. That's what at least that's my understanding.
Yeah, also I will see it a bit as an analogy comparing with Agile, as Shashi was commenting. You can do Agile without having any specific person taking care of Agile, but then when things start getting big, you need then the Scrum Master or someone to coordinate it. Yeah. So it's maybe the same logic. That when things go up, then you need someone designated to coordinate that thing, because otherwise people do their own things. And as we have been saying so many times, DevOps is not just a role or a person or some task or tools. It's more like a culture. That culture, as a result, you get tools, and then as a result, you get someone to take care of those tools.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thanks, Erik, and thanks everyone for attending this event. I am now stopped recording it so we can have normal talk.